If you're hearing this, it means I survived long enough to tell it. They knocked for hours. Not hard, not angry, just soft, rhythmic, always the same spot, like they knew where I was sleeping. What scared me the most wasn't the knocking, it was what the motion camera caught. The face pressed against the glass, smiling, never moving. My cousin owns a remote cabin in Oregon, west of Portland near Tillamook. It's not a tourist rental, more like a hunting shack. No Wi-Fi, no cell service, a wood stove and a generator for basic lights. She offered it to me in late 2021 after a bad breakup and a layoff in the same week. Said I needed the space, solitude. She wasn't wrong. What she didn't know was what the cabin had seen before me. It rained non-stop the night I arrived. Horizontal rain, the kind that thuds against the windows instead of tapping. I made a fire, cracked a book, poured some whiskey, and for the first time in months, I felt okay. At around 11 PM, the power flickered, then cut out completely. I lit candles and settled on the couch, bundled in blankets. That's when I heard it. Knock, knock, knock. Just 3, from the back window, the one near the bed. I froze, waited, then again, knock, knock, knock. Steady, not hurried, not panicked, like whoever was doing it didn't care if I opened up. They just wanted me to know that they were there. I crept to the window. Nothing, just dark trees and heavy rain. I called out, nothing back. I stayed up until 3 AM, the fire long gone, heart thudding at every creak and drip. Then it stopped. The next morning I chalked it up to a tree branch or wildlife, even laughed about it, until I saw the wet footprints on the deck outside, barefoot, one set, leading up to the window and not away from it. I drove into town that afternoon. I brought a $30 battery-powered motion cam, meant for deer hunters, nothing fancy. I set it up facing the back window. Night 2 came, and so did the rain. No power again, so I waited. At 12:18 AM, the knocks returned. Knock, knock, knock. This time, I didn't go near the window. I watched from across the room, behind the counter. Nothing appeared, no silhouette, no breathing, just the knocking. Always free, always slow. In the morning I checked the camera. It had triggered. 17 seconds of footage. The timestamp showed 12:19 AM. I pressed play. It was worse than I expected. A face was pressed against the glass. Male, mid-40s, balding. Eyes wide, mouth stretched into a grin that didn't fit. He didn't move, didn't blink. He just smiled for 17 full seconds. Then, at the very end, he tilted his head, as if to say, "You see me now." I ran to the sheriff's station with the footage. The deputy took it seriously, said they'll patrol the area, asked if I'd told anyone I was staying there. I hadn't. They pulled prints from the deck. The results came back inconclusive, smudged by the rain. But the prints were real, human. I left the next morning. I went back to Portland and I stayed with my brother. I tried to forget until 4 days later I received a package. No return address, just my name. Inside was a USB stick, one file. It was night vision footage of me, sleeping, in my brother's guest room, and from the angle had been filmed through the window, and faintly, in the background, knock, knock, knock. If you're hearing this, it means I survived long enough to tell it, but now, every time it rains, I draw the curtains tight, and if I ever hear 3 knocks, I don't check the window, because whatever it is, It already knows where I sleep. If you made it this far, maybe you're not like the others. Hit subscribe and I'll keep the stories coming. He didn't move when my high beams hit him. Just stood there in the middle of the road, arms limp, drenched, staring straight at me like I was expected. But what I'll never forget is when he slowly pointed behind my car and I realised he wasn't alone. This happened in early 2022. I'd just finished a late client dinner outside of Asheville, North Carolina, and took the Blue Ridge Parkway on the way back. I know it's not smart, it's remote, winding, and has zero cell service, but it's also beautiful, peaceful. I've driven it a dozen times and I never had a problem, but that night it was pouring, a proper southern thunderstorm. Wipers on full speed, windows fogging, every corner a blind guess. My plan was to get back to Roanoke by 11. I didn't make it. I was somewhere near milepost 140, trees thick on both sides, fog starting to roll in off the ground, and then I saw him, a man standing in the road. No umbrella, no reflective gear, just a beige jacket, soaked, clinging to him, and his face was turned slightly into my headlights. I braked hard. The tyres skidded just enough to make my chest tighten, but I stopped about 15 feet from him. He didn't flinch, didn't raise a hand, just stared at me. I rolled down the window slightly and shouted, "Hey, are you okay?" No answer. He didn't even blink, just lifted his right hand and pointed behind me. I turned. At first, I saw nothing, but then the tail-light glow caught movement. Something low to the ground, not crawling, crouching, near my rear driver's side tyre. My heart punched my ribs and I floored it. I didn't look back, I didn't stop, just drove until I reached a ranger turnout with lights. I pulled in, locked the doors and turned the hazards on. I called 911, I got nothing, there's 0 bars. I used the emergency SOS feature. I pinged the tower, said someone was in the road, waited, breathing fast. Every noise outside felt like footsteps. Eventually, a ranger showed up. I told him everything. He took it seriously. Checked my car, mud smears near the rear wheel well. One looked like a handprint. He drove back to where I'd seen the man. Came back 30 minutes later, said the road was clear. No footprints, no one on the shoulder, nothing. Back home the next day, I pulled my dash cam. It recorded everything. The man, the moment I stopped, him pointing. But what shook me to my bones, what happened at timestamp 10:37, a second figure appears, just for a split second, crouched behind the back tyre, wearing a hood, face down, palms on the ground. Then, gone. The footage glitches, rewinds 2 seconds, and then continues like nothing happened. I sent it to a friend who works in video forensic. She said it looked tampered with, like someone cut and restitched frames. That's impossible. It was saved straight from the SD card with no edit. 2 nights later, I found a note under my windshield. I live in an apartment complex with a gated garage. No one should have been able to get in. The note was handwritten, smeared ink, folded once. It read, "He was showing you where to look," and on the back, a rough sketch. It looked like my car, with a figure crouched behind the rear tyre. If you're hearing this, it means I survived long enough to tell it. But now, whenever I see someone on the road at night, I don't slow down, because if they're pointing, they're not asking for help, they're warning you that you're already being watched. If you made it this far, maybe you're not like the others. Hit subscribe and I'll keep the stories coming. The man who knocked on my window already knew my name, but that wasn't the part that broke me. It was when I realised he wasn't trying to hurt me. He was trying to warn me about someone else. I was driving back to Chicago after visiting my dad in Iowa. Late October, Sunday night, storm blowing in. I've been pushing it, trying to beat the rain, but I lost. By 11 p.m, the highway was slick and fogged, my wipers fighting to keep up. That stretch of the I-90 has long, empty runs, no streetlights, no exits for miles at a time. I was running on caffeine, podcasts, and the hope my little hatchback could hold together a few more hours. Spoiler, it didn't. At 11:42 p.m, the rear passenger tyre popped. I felt the whole car dip, then shake. I pulled to the shoulder, hazards on. Rain coming down sideways, wind howling like it was alive. I got out, popped the hatch, and opened the spare compartment. That's when I noticed something strange. It wasn't my spare. It was a full-size tyre, rusted rim, different brand, half flat. I'd had my tyres rotated just 2 months ago. This wasn't mine. I looked around. No other cars, no signs of tampering, but the lug wrench was missing. I got back in the car, soaked, adrenaline climbing. That's when I saw him. A man, walking towards me from down the shoulder. No umbrella, no raincoat, just a flannel shirt and jeans, already drenched. He reached my window and tapped once. I cracked it open. He leaned down and said calmly, "You've got a flat. I can help. Don't get out of the car." The last part threw me. He didn't ask, didn't suggest, just stated it like a command. I said, "I don't have a wrench. The spare's not mine." He looked down at me, dead serious, and said, "I know, John. I changed it." My skin crawled. "How do you know my name?" I asked. He didn't blink. "Because they already know you're here." Then he stepped back into the dark. I locked the doors, called 911, no service. Then I noticed something on the dashboard. A folded piece of paper I swear hadn't been there before. Written in Sharpie, "Don't look behind you." I looked anyway. In the mirror, far back, I saw headlights. Low to the ground, no engine sound, and the car crept forward slowly. It stopped a few car lengths behind me. A figure got out, tall, hooded, carrying something long. He walked right up to the side of my car, but he didn't knock. He just stood there, motionless, rain pouring off him. I couldn't see his face. That's when I noticed something worse. The flat tire was gone. My car was level again, like someone had swapped the bad tire while I was sitting inside. I opened the window just a crack. The man didn't move, didn't speak, just slowly turned and walked back to his car, then drove off without headlights. I sat there for 10 more minutes before I moved, drove 30 miles straight, didn't stop once. At the next service station, I got out and checked the spare. It was mine again. Same brand, same tools, like it had never been touched. But tucked beneath it was another folded note. It said, "You didn't look behind you. Good. If you're hearing this, it means I survived long enough to tell it. But if your car ever breaks down in the rain and someone offers to help before you even ask them who they're warning you about. Because not every stranger wants to hurt you. Some of them just don't want you to be the next name on the missing persons list."